Hey, come on in. Uh, we're going to take today nice and slow. Just to get things started, I'm going to light some incense, which is probably the most wild and woo-woo-y thing I've ever done. But I actually just got given these, and I think it's a perfect start to what I hope to share on today's episode around healing. I go to this sauna and cold plunge place here in New York City called Othership. They actually just opened their second location in Brooklyn, and it's been such a good reminder for me as someone who escaped a cult and is sort of like finding myself in this new capacity. And in fact, in a sec, if you're just coming onto this channel and you're learning about me for the first time, I'm going to share who I am. We'll get a little bit more into what I hope to share in today's episode. And then for everybody that is new and also have been here for a while, I'm going to share something at the end, provide something that I think we can all use at this time in culture where everything feels a little bit crazy. I think you'll like it. Something that I'm calling, it's an event. It's going to be a virtual event for all of us. Something that I'm calling Fire Night. I'll say more of that at the end of the episode. But let's get started here. I'm just going to light the incense. Ooh. There we go. This has never happened where the fire alarm goes off, but just watch the fire alarm go off. I wish you could smell this. I like incense for a lot of things. It's sort of, I think people probably use it for spiritual practices, but besides smelling good, it's sort of a trigger for me to get to my senses in what is feeling like an increasingly chaotic world. That's going to be really important and valuable. Okay, let's get started a little bit here. Hey, if you're new, I'm Calvin, also known as Cultured Boy. I was born into what many will call a cult. I'm still sort of working through how I feel about that identity or label. I use it because I think it's one of the quickest ways of describing where I'm from. Because, again, many people do call it a cult. My grandfather had 13 wives. He was one of the church leaders. My dad had 4 wives, and I grew up with 44 siblings. And every one of my siblings are different and unique in their own way. Most of them, I think all of them at this point, are still, where we were born and where we spent most of our time, which is in Utah and Arizona. And I am the sibling that sort of ventured out into the great unknown, and I live here in New York City. I lived my entire life in a particular worldview, and I started my life over a few years ago. And it's been anything but easy. But the benefit of going through what I've gone through and coming to a new foundation, I think, has helped me find peace. I've also helped, friends here and there in need through some of the hardships I've gone through and some of the tools that I've learned. And that's what I want to do here. I just want to give tools for individuals Because if you've looked on the news, if you've looked on X, if you've looked around the world, of course we're in a chaotic time. Just to name the unnameable, of course we had a shooting last week. And what's pretty wild is the different reactions of the shooting. And I'm not even going to really get into how you should think or how you should feel. But what has become increasingly obvious to me is just reading into people's reactions is sometimes people feel ungrounded and sometimes even hopeless. And so I want to give some things on today's episode that have helped me in my journey of transitioning out of one worldview into this new life. And haven't arrived by any stretch of the imagination. Hopefully a continual work in progress. But there are some things that have genuinely added benefit to my life. And so I want to share some. And where this came from is even when the world was chaotic this week, as it was, I did something over the weekend that years ago I would have never done. When things are getting chaotic, I think I would have spent more time on social media, trying to learn it, trying to argue it, find my view, and see what it is, and then tell other people why they're wrong, or try to persuade people. But I didn't do that over this weekend. I completely unplugged and connected with other humans. That's it. There's other things that we did, like go into the woods and have conversation and share our hopes and dreams and fears, and go into saunas and sweat lodges together and eating together at the same kitchen table multiple nights in a row. But I noticed how it legitimately rejuvenated me. And it's taking a long time for me to find the simple things, these one or two really simple things that seem to help me in a time of chaos and help me find my grounding. Here's one of them. So I'm going to share something that I drew once for my son Archie when my son Archie was having I can't remember exactly what, but every once in a while your child will my son Archie is about to turn 12 next month, and I have a little girl Belle as well. And the thing I love about kids is they're really no different from us. We sometimes think that we've gone through all the things, we've learned, we've processed, but the truth is we haven't. Everything is just in cycles. We might have longer moments of peace, but again, our kids remind us, I've been there, and we just don't have the tools. And even though a kid is a kid, they're a full human in what they're experiencing. And so unless they get given a tool to regulate or a direction of focus and perception, then that big energy is it's just going to be perhaps channeled in an unhelpful way. So I want to share something that has been one of the foundational pillars. It is such a simple idea. But it is a foundational perception or perspective on life that I think can give you instant peace and perhaps even instant how do I want to say this? Like, if you start operating in life this way, what I'm about to share, it can make you feel so much happier. Because when there's a lot of injustices in the world, and just be honest, there are a shitload of injustices, and it sort of can make us feel guilty in a way that we're even taking care of ourselves. In fact, before I go share this, I think what might be helpful to frame this conversation is why it's important to take care of yourself. Man, this was something that took me a long time to learn, because in my culture growing up, everything was for the community. But the downside of that is, of course, that's how things can get slippery and slip into something culty, because you start to outsource all of your lived experience to something else. And when you do that, it's hard to trust yourself. But if you keep playing this out far enough, you'll start to recognize that not only are you not helping yourself, you actually end up hurting the people that you're sacrificing yourself for, because you're not showing up as your best self. And so there's this saying that's attributed to, if you've ever gotten on a plane, they say, put your own oxygen mask on first. There's the other saying that you cannot pour out of an empty cup. I've lived both sides of that. I've done the thing where I've tried to solve everything for everyone. And then I've done the things where I'm like, I'm going to take care of me. And I care a lot about people. And what I've now since learned is the very best gift I can give to my kids and to my friendships and to all of my relationships is a full Calvin, a full me. And so I say that for anybody that might be tripping up on taking care of yourself, especially when there's quote unquote bigger problems out in the world today. Okay, so I want to see if I can help get rid of your anxiety, or at least minimize it, especially in chaos. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. If you're on meds, I'm not telling you to get off your meds. Still do your therapy. If you're on therapy, thank God for therapy. I still do therapy. But I think there's like two fundamental ways that you can look at reality. So this circle, I'm going to cover one of them. This circle, if you're on, I hope you're on video right now. I'll try to describe it if anybody's just listening. But the circle represents your entire life, and in the middle is you. And everything. You see a lot of squiggly lines, and that represents everything outside of your little circle that's going on that you can do effing nothing about. You can do nothing. Of course, there's things happening in other countries. It tugs on your heart, but you can't really change anything much. You see injustices happening in states over in your same state. It feels like absolute chaos, and it leads to a lot of anxiety, anger, and feeling stuck. But there's a different way. So how can you feel empowered? I'll talk about that. But this is where I had been for so much of my life, where I just feel completely out of control. I didn't know how to change it. And in fact, if I've tried to change it, it feels like an insurmountable problem, because I'm not going to stop being a caring human being. So I'm not just going to ignore the fact that there are kids dying somewhere, or that there are bad things happening, and turn into a recluse. That didn't feel real or authentic to me either. But there is a different way of focusing. So let's show it right now. This is what I call the empowerment circle. It looks the exact opposite of this one. Now, you're still in the middle, and everything is outside of you, but this is also to represent the difference in what it feels like. In the first one, where you're feeling anxious, it feels chaotic. In this one, it feels spacious. What's the difference between these two circles? What's the difference between these two lived experiences? What it comes down to is the direction of your focus. in this one, you're focusing on everything that is outside of your control. In this one, you're focusing on everything within your control as your primary focus. Now, this seems really simplistic, but just play it out. It works. What you have to ask yourself is you sort of just have to look at, like, I don't want to convince you. You can experiment with this, the different focus. And I'm not telling you to stop caring about causes that you really do care about. In fact, I want to hopefully show how you can make more impact on those causes that you care about. But again, sometimes to look at something that, to try something else, you can just look at how effective or ineffective the current strategy is. So I would just say if you're somebody like me that used to be so outward focused on all the things that were completely without my direct control or ability to impact, what does that do? Well, it makes my internal state chaotic as fuck. How do I behave when I'm chaotic as fuck? Well, I'm quick to respond to people in sort of a sharper way. How does that help things? Does it help or hurt? Probably doesn't help. It shows that I care, but how much do the things I care about actually shift? Not a whole lot. The only thing that really shifts is my internal state is chaotic. The only benefit, I guess, if you want to even call this a benefit, is I feel better about myself in a way for caring. But ultimately, it doesn't change the reality of anything. Now, focusing on what's inside your control. Oh, here's something that's really interesting too. When you focus this way, the circle of control that you have, like the center, starts to feel like the more you focus outward, it starts to feel like you have less and less and less power, which can start to feel very suffocating. And the more chaotic things are in the world, it just feels like it's descending on you. But let's flip it. Focusing on what's inside of your control. When you're focused on what's inside of your control, you're not ignoring everything that's out there. You're just focusing on the things that you can actually do something with. This is game changer because your entire brain and psychology and everything is goal-oriented. It is wired to aim for something, to pursue something. Your hormones, your happiness, and everything is wired for this, for goal setting. So if you're aiming for something that you cannot affect, it sort of jumbles literally your entire biology. I didn't learn about this until way later, till I was using this, and then I got into some of the literature, and I'm like, holy shit, no wonder this works. But what you end up doing is you're focusing on the things that, again, you can have direct control over. Now, what's really exciting is it doesn't have to start massive. You're not even changing your values. Like maybe you value peace in the world. Maybe you value harmony. Maybe you value, empowering people. And you see a problem that's really big. You're not going to stop having those values, but what you can do differently is see the thing you care about and then be courageous enough to focus small enough to be like, okay, what is something that I can do right now? And it can literally be as small as, like, if you're trying to bring, some sort of harmony to the world, like maybe you can't solve, conflict in the Middle East, but maybe you can give somebody a smile on the street, or you see two people, arguing, and you see what the win-win is for both of them, or solve it. Like, it can be in ridiculously small ways. And just as an example, again, this is not to pat my own back. It's just to give an example, because I want to start doing this more where I'm just speaking from my lived experience. But I went into a Popeyes, and they had like this chicken wrap. I'm eating a little bit healthier now, but for a few weeks I was going and eating their chicken wraps all the time. And I walk in there, to order a chicken wrap, and there's this little conflict happening between a customer and the person that's supposed to be taking the order. And the customer, it was obviously frustrated and upset. And I'm just, as a customer, I'm trying to take my order. I had my kids with me here in New York, and so I didn't want them to get frustrated. Like, there's so many things that I could have seen this going a different way than it did. I could have been like, okay, come on, lady, what are you arguing about? Let me take the order, or can I take the order? And then you can keep arguing with this person, like, what's going on? But instead, I stepped a little closer, I leaned in, and I was trying to get some understanding of what she was upset about. And I could hardly believe what she was upset about. She was upset about a biscuit. Literally, she was upset about a biscuit. And it wasn't even about a biscuit of that day. She had come into, according to her story, what I was listening to her tell the person who was going to be taking the order is, she had come in to Popeyes like 2 days prior, made a big order, and they shortchanged her one biscuit. Biscuits are like 75 cents. And again, there could be several ways that I respond to that. I could be like, oh, come on, lady. I could eye roll and say, it's a fucking biscuit. Who's going to cause all this complaining over a biscuit? What are you, a Karen? Could have done all that. But again, it was so small, I just had to ask. I was so curious. I was like, just curious, are you talking about a biscuit? Because, by the way, the clerk was saying, well, we can't give something that was 2 days ago or something. How do we know you're telling the truth? I can't look in the system and see if that's what you ordered, blah, blah, blah. And that person is just trying to follow her job. It's a small thing, but that person is just trying to follow her job. This woman is just trying to get, right for something that she was shortchanged on. And so I go up and I'm like, is this... am I hearing this right? Are you guys arguing over a biscuit? And the older lady, she must have been like 65 or 70. She was like, yeah, I know it's a small thing, but it's the principle of the matter. I just want to get what I ordered. And I looked at the clerk and she was like, yeah, we just, people come in all the time. We just don't know. And I was like, tell you what, and for me personally, I just wanted to make my order. And so I say, tell you what, put 2 biscuits on my order, and then I want that chicken wrap. And as soon as I said that, the old lady was like, what, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, it's like $1.50. It might have been $1 per biscuit. I was like, double whatever she wants. You wanting a biscuit? Okay, put 2 biscuits on. And then I was like, actually, she comes over to me. Her demeanor completely shifted. She was like, oh my gosh, really? I was like, of course. I was like, by the way, do you really like those biscuits? I've never had a biscuit. And she's like, oh my gosh, they're the best. And I was like, make it 3 biscuits, because I wanted to try one. And they're getting the stuff, they order it. This old lady comes over and gives me a hug. And the clerk is like, oh, you guys know each other. Because I said some comment when she was like, I was like, we got to look out for each other. And then the clerk, what do you guys call that? The cashier? Let me know in the comments. I don't know why I don't know. It's a clerk in the store, but is it just a cashier in a fast food joint? I don't know. I was like, yeah, we just got to look out for each other more. And the cashier was like, oh, you guys know each other. And I was like, I mean, this is the first time I met her, but, we're neighbors in New York. Like, we both live here. And the old lady gave me a hug and said, this is a good man. She was just so sweet about it. And then I tried the biscuit and was like, I see why you like that. That is so good. What's my point? That was a ripple. That did not solve world hunger. That did not necessarily help a child in Gaza live, things that I actually really care about. But I value resolving conflict. I value resolving conflict in a way of not fighting it out, but through understanding and curiosity and seeing what people really want and need. And so there are ways of doing it. And I'll be honest with you, when I walked out of there, I felt great. I felt really good because I got to make a difference. And again, if I was focused completely outward, I probably would have just been completely anxious. Just focusing on what's inside of my control, that's the unlock. Now, here's one other crazy cool thing that I've learned about this concept, and I want to give some love because the first time I heard a concept like this was from a guy, Stephen Covey. The late Stephen Covey. He's no longer with us, but I learned this about a decade ago and sort of adopted it in my own way. But one of the other things that's really cool about this concept is, again, just as I mentioned, remember when I said that when you're focusing outward, it can start to feel like it's closing in on you more and more and more. The opposite is true when you're focusing on what's inside of your control. When you're focusing on what's inside of your control, that is your domain of power. And I don't mean power in a bad way. You are empowered. Like, I call this circle the anxiety circle. I call this, the top one with spaciousness, the empowered circle. And we live in a day and age where we start to feel like that the algorithms control our life. We feel like the government controls our life. But all of those things are externally focused. There is a fucking hot fire inside of all of us that we can choose to do something with it. We can be empowered. Now, here's the really fucking cool part of this. If you do this and you make it a practice, you make it a habit that you see something that isn't going your way or again, in any given situation, it could be an argument with your significant other, it could be something that's happening in your community, it could be anything. If you start focusing on what's inside of your control, that circle, your domain of effect, your domain of influence, your domain of power, will do the exact opposite of what the anxiety circle does. It expands a little bit, meaning you will begin to have even more control. This is such a ridiculously simple idea that could literally change the world. It could change your life. It's changed mine. Like when I was leaving the religion, I started my entire life over. Like literally every single person that was a close person to me besides my kids became estranged overnight, including my best friend at the time, which was the person that I was married to. We separated, and we had a really friendly. One thing I loved about our partnership is we communicated all the time. But once it was obvious that we were like leaving, then like the biggest insecurities on both of us came out, and it was very emotionally painful. And there were some days where the best I could do is get out of bed. Like that was the number one thing. That was the number one thing, is to get out of bed. And sometimes even not. And so the real magic with this is not beating yourself up and saying, I should have control over this. Because here's the thing. There's going to be some days where, have you ever had this thing where you're like super motivated and you get something done, and then the next day you're like, where the heck did all my motivation go? That's okay. Don't, in a previous model in my life, I'd beat myself up because I'm like, I'm not motivated, and then I'd have to think I'm just needing to push myself to get motivated. No. Just find the thing that you have control over. That's it. Now, this will tie to another thing. And again, why am I saying all this? I hope I made it clear with the beginning of like the chaos in the world. I really think that the more... I already know that my audience are misfits. That's one thing I've noticed, just based on the comments. There's a lot of people that are coming into my channel and finding me and finding my content, and they've either left something or they see the world differently. They don't really fit. And I think what's going to really help us all and help the misfit is staying in your power, not giving it up to something else, not getting wrapped up in the whirlwind that is the culture and society. The only way we actually feel good and happy is to stay locked into who we are, taking care of ourselves. And then maybe even the things that we care about and value, we can affect some sort of change on it. That's the idea. And so I want to share, it's somewhat connected. But again, I'm sharing things that I've done so much reading, so much digging. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaches and mentors and going to events to find things. And I've found some of these ridiculous things that are so simple that I want to give. One of those things, this is going to sound so silly that I'm going to say that this is a thing to help you when you're feeling chaotic and when you're needing to heal and when the world's going crazy and maybe when your brain is racing. But here it is. Breathing. Breathing. Yeah, breathing. This is so wild, but the more I learn about life, it becomes less and less surprising why this is. What do I mean by breathing? Of course, there's meditation that you can do, and that's actually something connected to this if you want. But again, there's the difference of orientations, the way you can focus. And if you focus outward, you're going to feel completely out of control. If you find the few things inside of your control, then you're going to feel happier. You're going to find your bearings. And if you find your bearings, you can always move forward. Your breath is always with you. And so there were times where I didn't even feel like I could get out of bed when I was in my transition out. Well, even in bed, I can do some deep breathing. And it's doing a lot of things I don't understand or remember all of the science, except I know it's really good for you. The main thing I focus on is the mental and emotional benefits. There are actual physiological benefits of doing some deep breathing. I do some Wim Hof breathing on this app, the Wim Hof app. But what it does is it gets me out of my head and into my body. And again, notice what that's doing. It is going from outward to inward. It's saying, this is my place of control. And just really getting to this baseline of okay. And when things are going crazy and you've had multiple days of not feeling okay, sometimes just the possibility of feeling okay just helps. I want to share something that I learned or where this came from, and then I'm going to do an example of like some deep breathing if you want to try it. Again, leave the religion, leave the marriage, COVID, we're in the swing of COVID, and I'm living by myself for the first time when I'm used to living, grew up in a house with 44 siblings and 5 parents and, a community of people, and the world is shut down. So to say that I was lonely was an understatement. And there were times where, I was trying to do all of the things that I learned in positive psychology because I had read the books on Tony Robbins. I'd even attended a Tony Robbins event, and I'd read personal growth and development books and be like, oh, this is all in my head. And I would just say, I'm good, I'm happy. But I felt like I was bullshitting. And I was like, fuck that. I just want to feel okay. And I remember some days were so dark. I'm just like, if I can just feel okay, I can do anything. Just help me feel okay. But that felt like a lie. But then one morning I remember waking up and just sort of feeling it myself and saying like, do I feel okay today? Fuck, I don't. Shit. And I might have cried. And then I started to just notice, okay, these are words I started to say, and then it turned into a little bit of a beat. But I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm breathing. My heart is beating. I'm okay. I'm here. I'm breathing. My heart is beating. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. And I literally just repeated that to myself. I am here. I am breathing. My heart is beating. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I am here. I am breathing. My heart is beating. I am here. I am breathing. My heart is beating. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not getting into the whole thing, but I did that for multiple rounds. It was when I was so low. It was hard for me to even say I'm okay because that felt like bullshit. But it somehow just helped say, well, I'm here because quite literally I am. And I was like, I'm breathing because I am, and my heart is beating. Okay, if I'm here and I'm breathing, my heart is beating, I'm okay. And then it felt true. And then I was at my baseline of, okay, I'm okay, and then I can expand from that. So why does that work? It is, again, coming back to focusing on the things that are within your power. And don't ever judge yourself for going smaller if you need to. There are some days where I get so much done where I'm like, fuck yeah, bro. Good job for getting all that done. But again, there are some days where you're like, okay, it's just this. The cool thing is if you try to do your best day every day, you're just going to end up focusing on what's outside of your control. You're going to beat yourself up and you're not going to get anything done. The paradox is if you don't shame yourself and you focus on what's actually inside of your control, you're going to feel good. You're going to be connected to your psychology and your emotions and your hormones, your entire system as a human being for being goal-oriented and directed. So you're going to feel happier and it's going to expand over time. Your circle of control, your circle of influence is going to shift. So this is something I really much believe in. And again, this is one core idea I just want to share with the cultured fam of the show to help you in this time, because I really think this grounded feeling can be really helpful. All right, let's see what else we have. There was something else I wanted to share. Okay. I have a couple other ideas. There's one habit that has really helped also, if you want to take it deeper. So I like, when I'm feeling really out of it, I like starting with these deep breathing. Oh, I was going to do the deep breathing. So there's this Wim Hof app. I can't remember if it's free or if I paid an annual subscription on it, but it's literally just doing a really deep breath. Fully in, he says. Then let it go. And that literally calms down your nervous system. You would be shocked. I'm feeling that already. I'm literally feeling myself calm down just in a few deep breaths. And you would be shocked, absolutely shocked, how much of your lived experience is because of your brain going nuts, and how much of your brain going nuts because your physiology, your nervous system is going nuts. And if you get centered first, get your breathing regulated, and then meditate, and then get your mind right, how it just changes everything. By the way, I was going to say this at the front of the episode, but I'll say it again now. Something I'm also going to share in a little bit here is what I call the world's most powerful drug. I'm not a doctor or anything, and I'm probably not supposed to promote drugs on my show, but I'm going to promote one, what I call the world's most powerful drug, that is literally the best thing for everything that I've done. It helps my mood. It helps my attitude on life. It makes me more patient with people. It makes me more loving. I work out harder. I'm more productive. So I'm going to share what that is too. But just one other thing for what it's worth. Journaling. This habit is something that has helped me a lot. And I've been journaling almost every single day since I was 17. It's been my longest lasting habit. So, in fact, I attribute probably the reason I was able to leave a cult is through that continual self-reflection to see what am I thinking and trying to notice why I'm thinking a thing and what are my real incentives and what happens if I believed the exact opposite and what does that mean for my life. And, if my goal really is truth, am I following truth or am I just trying to stay consistent with my entire worldview? Like just really getting honest. So there's so many different ways to journal, and there's really only one way that I find the most helpful. And I get this from a guy named Kevin Kelly. I've talked to Kevin Kelly a couple of times. Some people call Kevin Kelly, in fact, Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 4-Hour Workweek, he calls Kevin Kelly the real world's most interesting man, most interesting person alive, because he just has experienced so much. Even in his old age, he's always learning something new. And I have talked to Kevin Kelly a couple times. And one of the times I talked to him, I asked him for advice on becoming a better writer, a clearer thinker, like having more impact on the world, just generally what could help. And he said, when you write, even if nobody else sees it, be uncommonly honest. That's your goal. Be uncommonly honest. That will help you like crazy. Because there's going to be some things that you write down that you might even be afraid to write. I've written some things that at first started, I would think, oh, this is edgy, or this almost feels shameful that I'm writing this, my view on my friends or my kids or society or a group of people or myself or the religion or spirituality. And I just start untangling it and then seeing it and then dissolving the shame and seeing where it's really coming from. And usually it's coming from a place of like, oh, I see the fear here, or I see where this thing is trying to protect me, where self-judgment is not something that just should be getting rid of. It's trying to show me what's important. There's so many benefits to it. So if you do try journaling, then it is something that the only tip I have, however you do it, if you're writing prompts, if you're writing your future, if you're writing how you're feeling about a thing, just uncommon honesty. Be radically self-honest, even if nobody else is going to see it. That helps like crazy. Okay. I'm also going to share just a couple of people to follow during a time in chaos. I think two people that I particularly love, I call them Mama Mel and Mama Brene. So you might know them already. They both have TED Talks and they have really good stuff. The thing I like about them is just the content is so caring and so shame-free, but very practical and useful. So if you don't know who Mel Robbins is, follow her on Instagram, get her books, follow her on YouTube. I've been lucky enough to bump into Mel Robbins a couple of times. I shared a stage with her once, actually, in Salt Lake City. So, yeah, just watch one or two of her clips, see if she resonates. I think she's somebody I would highly recommend. And if anybody else is in the comments that can vouch for that, let me know. And then Brene Brown. The thing I love about Brene is I feel like we're living also in a time period. Yes, we're living in chaos, but it feels like there's so much shame in the system. And if we're feeling shame is not easy to, it's not easy to dissolve. And it certainly doesn't dissolve in the shadows. And through Brené's work, I've been able to uncover some of the shame that I've had for growing up the way that I have and believing certain things. So yeah, I'm a big fan of her work, so she's somebody else that I would recommend following as well. Okay. The drug. I'm going to talk about the drug that helps everything. It's going to be so ridiculously simple. And then I'll share the thing that, sort of a gift that I want to give my audience, all of you that are listening, just to help us in this time period to hopefully just feel more grounded and connected and, being productive people in the world without feeling so divided and disconnected from each other, even if we look or think or act differently. Okay, so what if I could tell you that there was a drug that actually is effective? It is not only approved, but it is one of the most widely accepted among legit scientists that this flat out works. It helps you with recovery. It helps you with, mood boosting. It helps your immune system. It makes you happier. It helps you be more productive. Literally every good thing it helps with. And the side effects, very minimal, if any. How much would you pay for that drug? Like, if it could literally help you with everything, which means if you're feeling happier, you're going to approach people differently. The way you show up to the world is going to be better. So what would you pay for it? Well, here's the good news. The drug is free. Just like all of these exercises and these things that I'm giving you, they're all free. They're things that we can use right now to stay in control. And what is the drug? It is sleep. The drug is sleep. And again, so many of these things are counterintuitive. Sleep is one of those things that for me has been counterintuitive because I'm an overachiever. I want to get things done. I want to be, better than average. And so I used to put my whole identity on getting up at 4:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, getting up and cranking. And I don't anymore. I put way more focus on getting the rest that I need. And I literally track it. So you can get like Oura Rings, you've heard of this. I have the Whoop. I'm not sponsored by Whoop. Whoop, you should sponsor me though, because I fucking love the Whoop. Yeah, I would love to have Whoop as a sponsor. That would be dope because I literally use it. And I use it for a lot of things because it also tracks how much you're pushing yourself, this, which is known as your strain score. But the score I mostly use is around sleep and recovery. Because, again, there's a lot going on in my world. I'm trying to balance the impossible. I live in New York and my kids live in Arizona mostly with their mom, but I also spend time with them out there and I fly them out here. I'm juggling impossible financial situations right now, trying to get the YouTube channel and everything growing. I did my film Hearts Unknown, where I traveled to Israel, without an itinerary, with one single contact to make a film, learning how to edit the film, a documentary when I've never done that before, trying to get into the West Bank, talking to people that the two sides hate each other, feeling the tension between the two, having the fear of being caught in the crosshairs, wanting to change the world. There's a lot of things that pull at my psyche and my emotions. And the one thing that helps me with all of it is sleep. If I'm ever feeling too crazy or too down, instead of being like, okay, I got to get this done, I got to get that done, I got to get the other things done, which also helps me, is keeping my plate clear. I'm like, where's my sleep at? What are my sleep scores? And I'll check it and be like, I've had shit sleep for 3 days in a row. No wonder I feel like a pile of dog poo. And so I'll start there. And again, there's other things that I do, much of them here, like getting reconnected to what's inside of my control. The thing that I hope you're picking up is that's really the through line when it comes to healing, is getting back to you and trusting that our body has been, if you believe in evolution, design, it's been around for a long time. It's pretty fucking well optimized. And so to think that we know better than this isn't just short-sighted. It's a little bit arrogant in a way. So it's all of the things, is getting back to this, getting back to the basics, getting back to sleep, breathing to slow down your nervous system, focusing on something that's within your power versus outside of your power. And none of this is to disconnect us from the outside world and what's going on. It's, in fact, it's designed to do the exact opposite. And these are things that have helped, that genuinely helped me. And so I just want to share. What else did I want to say before I give the thing? Oh, a couple things. First, a story of Gandhi. There's the story I heard once of Gandhi that I really liked, where a mother came to Gandhi and said, "Gandhi, will you please tell my son to stop eating sugar?" And Gandhi said something like, "Yes," and then turned around and walked away. And the mother was like, "What the? My son's right here. Aren't you going to tell me?" She says, "Visit me in a few weeks." And so the mother and her son visit Gandhi in a few weeks' time, and they go to him. And the mother says, "Hey, you said to come back in a few weeks and you would tell my son to stop eating sugar." He said, "Oh, yes, I remember. Son, stop eating sugar." And it was great. And he said, okay, he committed. But then the mother was somewhat puzzled. And she was like, "But why didn't you say that? Why didn't you say that 3 weeks ago?" And Gandhi said something like, "Because 3 weeks ago I was eating sugar." He wanted to be true to the words that he was saying. And so he went off sugar for a few weeks so that he could then say something with power. And again, I think that's the through line with the chaos in the world. There's so many things that we want to shift. We want our governments to shift. We want other people to do something differently. Let's do something differently first. That really does add power to the words that we say. And I think we should celebrate people that seem to be doing that. And this isn't quite the same thing, but I'm going to celebrate somebody that is not going to be popular to share. Of course, the Charlie Kirk thing happened last week, and there was some pretty despicable things that have been said around Charlie Kirk, and people twist things, and they also don't realize that we're all connected. And so it's not just about Charlie Kirk. It's not just about his wife. It's not just about his kids. It's about so many people that looked to this person. But Stephen King, who I have a lot of respect for, literally, he said something pretty nasty that he said Charlie Kirk said. And he got a lot of hate for it. But then something interesting happened. Stephen King found out that what he said wasn't true. And then he did something really rare. He apologized immediately. Now, that's not the end of the story, and it's not why I'm bringing it up. Why I'm bringing it up is after he apologized, so many people on the internet jumped down Stephen King's throat. And it's like, you shouldn't have ever said it, and that's not good enough, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm bringing it up now because, just to state the obvious, none of us are perfect. All of us, I'll just speak for myself, I'm a work in progress. Dude, if I look at my life where I was a few years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was deep in the cult, believing things very differently than what I do now. And one thing that I think we really could do to help lower the temperatures in the world is recognize that we're all human and accept the fact that we're all human. And that first starts with ourselves. That's why I did this whole episode really getting connected to us, to ourselves. Because I think if we're good there, if we're good with ourselves, it's a lot easier to be effective in the world. But it's also, we tend to have more compassion for other people because it's actually really fucking hard sometimes to not judge yourself because you care about something so much, or when things don't go your way. It's easier sometimes to tell other people that they shouldn't do something. But I think we need to have a little bit more grace for ourselves, and we certainly, most definitely, in my humble opinion, need to have grace for people that are trying. We need to have grace for people that are trying, that are actually learning from their mistakes and their course correcting. I'm not saying don't have some level of accountability. I'm not saying point things out, but when we see a human being actually give effort to correct who they are, let's honor that, because the truth is we're all going to mess up at some point. We live in the age of the internet. It's only a matter of time before we have our moment where everything is sort of documented. I think I'm entering this era where, yes, I'm doing content on social media and I'm sharing my stuff, but I was like, even if I was a private citizen, I'm starting to wonder, like, is my stuff ever going to, are we all going to just be private forever? Because there's a lot of stuff that people get into, even when you're private. And if it's not now, it's going to be in another, just one generation later, everybody's going to know your business. So why not just be who you really want to be and accept people for who they are and be kind to yourself and to others? So that's just one admonition I want to offer, is I hope that we can just be generous to those that are trying to be a good human, because the world needs good humans and people that are willing to face themselves, face their mistakes, and then adjust. Okay. The thing I want to offer here at the end, I just had such a flipping, amazing good weekend with good humans. And it reminds me how medicinal, how good it is for human beings to just connect, even if they look, act, and think differently. And sometimes when things happen, like just happened with the Charlie Kirk situation or any other tragedy, to me, the trigger it puts into me is it's my time to slow down and see what actually matters, and to look at what matters in my own life and what has mattered for humanity and how we've gotten through hard things in the past. And there's this strange thing that I'm reminded of, and that is fire. So, I'm fond of fire for many reasons. It's one of the best technologies that humans ever discovered and utilized. Of course, fire can be used for destruction, but fire, you may or may not know, is like, for many anthropologists and historians still consider fire as one of the greatest technological advancements for human evolution, because fire brought us together. Of course, fire allowed us to cook food and stuff like that, but it allowed us to share stories. It allowed us to bond. It allowed us to create myths and things that made us feel more connected to each other. And that connection to each other allowed us to make progress in ways that we haven't had, or that they didn't have prior to that. When I was growing up in the religion, again, I grew up in Utah, so we had all 4 seasons. And when the seasons would change, we had a living room with a fireplace in it, and my dad would light the fire, and most of my siblings would sleep in the living room near the fire, and it ultimately turned into this fun hangout spot where we would just hang out for hours. I loved it. It was seriously so fun. When my kid's mom and I separated, I knew I had to think differently about my time with my kids. I wasn't going to be there as much in a quantity way, but I needed to be there in a deeper way, in a quality way. And so something, sort of a tradition that I instituted with my kids is something that I call Fire Night. And Fire Night is sort of borrowing on those two ideas. How I was raised, like when we've had fire, all the kids, all of my siblings and I would hang out, and also recognizing that humans have thrived by gathering around the fire, sharing stories, connecting, and that sort of thing. So I really love it. I did this thing with my kids called Fire Night, and it has a very loose agenda, sometimes no agenda, but it's a time just to be with each other. Why am I telling all this? Because I'm going to invite you virtually to a Fire Night. So I'm going to try this. I want to connect people together that follow my content. So we're going to do a Fire Night. If you're watching this, hopefully it's not too late. Maybe I start doing it every Saturday, but I'm going to do a Fire Night this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So wherever you are, I'll put the link at the top of the description so that you can RSVP. But the point is just to connect. You can connect with me and then connect with other people that follow my content. And I'll see how it goes. I'll see if this is something that is useful and valuable. But the reason I wanted to do it is, again, I've just noticed how so much of our life is sort of bubbled and siloed. And so I want to start building community a little bit more. And I just noticed how much better I felt this weekend, how much more grounded I felt by having really good humans in my corner, in my circle, and being connected to really cool people, and having those conversations that were sort of open-ended with people this weekend, how it just helped everything. So I want to offer it to you, the cultured community, cultured fam. So yeah, RSVP if this sounds like something that you're into. And I think I'm going to start wrapping right here. Maybe a final fun note, just to like why I even did an episode like this called Time to Heal. I think this is really it. I think it begins with us. I haven't done an episode about my dad yet. I will at some point. My dad passed away last year. We had a very interesting relationship. A beautiful one, ultimately, because he definitely was a human that was quite flawed and did things to me and other family members and just the way that he was that were hurtful, damaging in a lot of ways, but also things that were quite beautiful in the raw human that he was. And there was a phrase, I think I mentioned this, I might have mentioned this before, but if this is your first time, or I'll say it again. But there was a phrase that he would say whenever it came to getting something done or accomplishing something. It was a playful phrase that he said, "It's just us chickens." It's just us chickens. Like, who do you think's going to solve it? It's just us chickens. And that's sort of how I feel right now in the culture moment. Like, when things go chaotic, I think the reaction is we want to, like, run in the streets and protest and tell our government or our leaders or get on a Reddit post and say, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. We start to, again, externally focus. But it's just us chickens. In other words, if it's ever going to be solved, who's going to do anything? I think it's going to be us. I mean, I really do. I think it's like, and this isn't in some like fucking toot your own horn. I think it's tooting your own horn too much to just go on Twitter or Reddit and like scream in a bullhorn and think that's going to solve everything. And again, still protest, still stand for your values, but I think it's going to be with doing small things that can help. And so that's what I hope is the spirit that this episode is wrapping with, is recognizing you're not powerless. None of us are. Like, there are big fucking problems to be solved. And who's going to solve them? Well, it's just us chickens. But we're not going to solve them just by screaming at each other, focusing on what's outside of our control, giving up our power to something external to us. It's going to be getting grounded, taking care of ourselves, and taking care of yourself and healing yourself is not selfish. It is the greatest gift you can give somebody else. Because first of all, just to say it bluntly, now you're not somebody else that people have to worry about in terms of, like, I'm not saying that you belong and you should be here, but like, it's such a gift for people when you can contribute to something. And when you take care of yourself, now you're a contributor. And you can help somebody else that's been in a tough spot. And that's not to say that you shouldn't ask for help when you need help and stuff like that. That's what I want to be. I want Cultured Boy and the entire brand, whatever this is becoming. I want it to be a soft place to land. That's really what I want, because there's so much going on, and I know what it feels like to be in the chaos. I know what it means to be lonely and try to find something. That doesn't mean I'm not going to poke around and ask questions and have conversations with my audience and with people on my show that are uncomfortable to hear. All that's going to happen. But I want a soft place for land. I believe in humans. And so this is my small way of seeing if this is helpful for people to connect. So let's see if we can build or just try this small event. So again, this Saturday, 8 p.m., 1 to 2 hours. I'll put the RSVP link in the description. And let's wrap this higher. I'd love to hear what your greatest takeaway is from this episode, if it was helpful, if you want to hear more of this type of thing. We're still going to get into some culty stuff. In probably 2 episodes from now, I'm going to have the most infamous cult leader's son on my show. Warren Jeff's son, who is on the top 10 most wanted list, is going to come on Cultured Boy. So that'll be a fun episode. So we'll still do stuff like that. But I also want to not just do content that is just entertaining, which we'll do, but the thing I really want to highlight is the human being in these crazy moments, because then you as the audience can get something from it, and that's really what I want. I want you to actually learn from this, learn about yourself, learn about cults, learn about culture, so that we're all becoming better together. All right, would love to hear your thoughts. I'll read the comments. Thank you so much for watching. We'll keep this episode simple. I'll see you on the next episode, and as always, stay hungry, stay curious. Peace.